mga boss, BossTL here again. Ito nga pala yung bago nating motor, Svartpilen 401. Nakuha natin siya second hand. Hello mga boss, welcome back to the channel. I guess everyone knows I had a Svartpilen 401, which I used extensively for almost 2 years. 2 years din natin siya nagamit, and it's pretty much known what happened to that bike. Yep, wala na siya ngayon. Sad to say, nasunog siya in one unfortunate event. Nandito yun. I did have some good times with that bike, but then, you might also be wondering kung nag-enjoy ako sa Svartpilen 401 ko, ba't ako bumalik sa 390 Duke after having the Svartpilen for so long? Sasagutin ko yan dito sa video na to. For now, intro muna tayo. If you have been following me for a while now, you probably know how much I love the Svartpilen 401 when I first got the bike. In fact, I really like it so much that I swapped my KTM Duke 390, which I bought brand new from KTM BGC, for a pre-loved Svartpilen 401. Yes, second hand in other words, brand new to second hand. Just imagine that, right? My first impressions of this bike were overwhelmingly positive. Something you'll definitely see in my reviews. You can watch them here, here, and here. Dami yan. Marami na rin ako nagawa about that one. It has been all positive in these videos. But then after using this bike for almost 2 years now, I've discovered some things about it that I've grown to dislike. Some of them are pretty frustrating. So in today's video, I'm breaking down the top things I hate about the Svartpilen 401. Alright, first up is the overall look of the bike. Let's be honest, it feels so small. Like, too small. If you're someone who loves the commanding presence of a big bike, well, definitely this one might not do it for you. While the Svartpilen 401 has a unique and minimalist design, the overall look of the bike feels very small. And I will reiterate that, it is very small, as if I have not stressed that enough. The design is unique and eye-catching, of course. Great for thumb bikes and the likes, something to show off. And it definitely tries to give a cool and mean tough scrambler vibe. But then when you roll up next to bigger bikes, it's kind of hard not to feel like you're riding a toy. It's too small. It doesn't really help that I'm 5'10" in height, and the profile of the bike from the rear with me riding it makes it, weirdly unproportional. And that's something I cannot unsee. So definitely this one is a downer for this bike. It's really just too small for a big bike. Now next up, the fuel tank. It's tiny. Just 10 liters. I mean, really, at just 10 liters, it feels way too small, especially for someone who loves long rides. For a bike that's supposed to handle both city streets and some light adventuring, you'd expect something more practical, and I mean bigger capacity than what it is now. If you're riding long distances, you'll find yourself stopping for fuel more often than you'd like. And guess what? Here's the kicker. When you refill, you'll find out that there are often still 5 liters left in the tank. Quite a bummer, right? It's an annoying quirk that makes refueling more of a hassle than it needs to be. It's not just inconvenient, it definitely kind of defeats the purpose of the freedom that riding is supposed to bring. Now, let's talk about the gearbox. I think I have raised this in my previous reviews, but definitely this one gets under my skin the most. Finding the neutral. I'm not sure what they did with the 390's gearbox, which was quite pleasant in the 390 Duke, and made it worse in the latest iteration in the Svartpilen 401. Finding neutral on this bike is a genuine nightmare, and I say nightmare. At first, I thought it was just inconvenient, but over time, it's gotten worse. It's like playing hide and seek with your gear shift. You think you've got it, but nope, you're either on first or second gear. It's not just annoying, it's unsafe when you're at the stoplight or trying to park. At some point, I got used to having to shift to neutral while rolling to a stop at traffic lights. Otherwise, I'm stuck holding the clutch the entire time. It's quite tiring and just shouldn't be this hard on a modern bike. For a bike that's supposed to offer premium experience, this feels like a pretty basic issue that Husqvarna should have nailed at the very start, right? Another major annoyance is the constant Quickshifter failure warning that appears on the panel. I'm not sure if this is actually a failure, but I've heard this requires calibration. But the warning still shows up far too often. It's irritating and takes away from the overall riding experience, knowing that, there's a warning about Quickshifter and stuff, where in fact you just need to turn off the bike and start it again just to remove the error warning. It's quite annoying, actually. Acceleration of this bike has definitely taken a hit due to Euro 5 restrictions. That's understandable. All other bikes with Euro 5 restrictions face those issues. But what's even more concerning is the bike's tendency to stall, especially during cold starts. Someone recommended installing Fuel X and this would resolve the issue. So I installed an expensive Fuel X to address this issue, and while it minimized the problem, it didn't completely solve it. It still stalls. This is particularly frustrating when filtering through traffic in low gear and low RPM. The engine chokes when gassing up at a crawl, which somehow causes me to lose balance on more than one occasion. So it's quite dangerous, if not dangerous, quite inconvenient to say the least. Now, the other issue that I had is that the engine also feels like it's working much harder to reach the 140 kilometers per hour range compared to the 390 Duke. Actually, I immediately noticed this when I first got the bike. The 390 Duke and the Svartpilen 4.1, practically have the same engine. However, their performance is remarkably different. It's not as effortless as I would expect for a bike in this category, which actually makes highway rides less enjoyable. With the 390 Duke, it's understandable it's hard to reach the 150s, but with the Svartpilen, reaching the 140s is actually, an effort. And it's a bummer, especially I was actually using the Svartpilen 4.1 every weekends going back and forth, Pampanga and Antipolo. Okay, so let's talk about maintenance costs. It's expensive. It's more expensive than the 390 Duke. Just imagine, the rear Pirelli Scorpion tire is that expensive, around 9,000 pesos for just the rear tire. Remember, I got punctured and the puncture that I got was too big. I had to buy one-piece rear tire and it costed me that much, 9,000 pesos. Okay, to put that into perspective, I could buy a front and rear tire for the 390 Duke for only 8,000 pesos. That's a big price difference, right? Just imagine the other parts as well. And likewise, since the Svartpilen is painting itself as an off-road bike, then there's a huge tendency for drops and the tendency to break some of the levers or brake lever or the clutch levers. And the prices of those parts are really expensive. And you'll have to wait several months to actually get those pieces ordered and delivered to you. Okay, talking about suspension. When I first reviewed this bike going to Lobo, I mentioned the seat was fine during the trip to Batangas. But then, after using it regularly every weekends going back and forth Pampanga and Antipolo, I've now realized how uncomfortable it gets on long rides. The seat is very hard on the butt and the suspension doesn't help either. It's very stiff. At the end of the ride, you feel very tired and my back hurts. It might probably be attributed to my age, but then riding the Svartpilen isn't as comfortable as I used to think it was before when I first rode the bike to Batangas. Now finally, my last point. The bike isn't great for back rides, for bringing along your passenger or your wifey. The seat is way too slim and uncomfortable for passengers, especially compared to the wide seat of the 390 Duke. It's just not designed with a back rider in mind. Just imagine this. My wife, who loves riding the 390 Duke, going to Baguio and back with no complaints whatsoever, doesn't really want riding on the Svartpilen because it's too slim, it's very uncomfortable, and she feels so unsafe with the bike. But then again, that's my wife's feedback, not mine. But, as an overall view of that, it's not just back ride friendly as my 390 Duke was before. So yeah, there you have it. Some of the things I've grown to hate about the Svartpilen 401 after almost 2 years of ownership. Don't get me wrong, I still like the bike. With its stunning looks and practicality, it's a very nice bike to have. I still think it's a cool bike with a lot of character. It's a very nice bike to have, and it's got its own charm. Unfortunately, I lost my Svartpilen in a fire, which was heartbreaking to say the least because it was a bike I truly appreciated for what it offered. But if you would ask me if I would get one again as my big bike, well, honestly, I'd have to say no. Well, at least not as a primary bike that I would be using regularly. It's just not the ideal daily commuter or long travel companion for me. These issues I mentioned earlier have really made me rethink how practical and enjoyable it is in the long run. As a project bike, maybe, but for regular use, I'll probably look elsewhere. So there you have it. If you own a Svartpilen 401, do you agree with my points? Or do you think I'm being too harsh? Nevertheless, drop your thoughts in the comments and let's chat about it, okay? Anyway, thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell for more of bike reviews and stories that I have. And as I always say, stay awesome, stay safe. See you in the next episode. Bye for now.